Hi, if you've missed the previous two videos, well, I'm Rob Santini from Financial and Corporate Services, and this is basically the third video in the series, and we're going to be dealing with retirement planning. The previous was an introductory and a life insurance overview. Here we're dealing with retirement. Okay? How many of you think, tomorrow's another day? Life happens. Okay? There's always 1001 reasons not to be investing for retirement. As there always seems to be lots of time. Lots and lots of time. I've got news for you. Time goes like that. Okay? And priority for most people is always, living expensive, holidays, education, buying a house, ad nauseum, non-stop. Does that ring a bell? Okay? Because let me tell you, 90% of the people, that rings a bell. I'm going to show you a case study of what happens when people delay investing for retirement. Okay? And this hopefully will give you a wake-up call. So here's a guy, John Citizen, earning 50,000 Rand a month. His age is 35, and he happens to be on a company pension fund of 15% contribution, right? Inflation, we take it at 5%, and net return on investment, we're looking at 3% above inflation, okay? Now understand, whether it's 5 or 8 or whatever it is, it's irrelevant as long as you're earning 3% above that inflation, okay? And that's exactly the same provided the fees are averaged across that situation. So let's take case number 1. 50,000, he's paying 7,500 Rand a month, okay? And after 30 years, he's got 20.7 million Rand in his bank. Wow, 20 million Rand. My goodness, that's a lot of money. Really? You think so? Well, just let me switch over. So I've got news for you, because 20 million Rand is 4.5 million in today's money. And even 4.5 million sounds like a lot of money to most people. All right, how about you putting that money into a bank, living annuity, whatever, where you're drawing down 6%. Now why 6%? Because you need to look after yourself for the rest of your life. So it means if the investment is earning 10% and you're drawing 6%, your rate of inflation that you're getting is only 4% growth. Okay? That's why. Now at 6%, it means that this guy is going to be pulling in 22,000 Rand a month. And I haven't even calculated the tax on that. So that's not even what he's going to net. That's gross. And expressed as a percentage of his salary, that is 46%. How many of you, if I came to you today and said to you, can you today live on 46% of your salary? The answer is no, not even close. Okay? That's 90% of it. Alright? Not even close. Not a chance in hell. Okay? Alright. Watch what happens now when we change. This was at age 65. 5 years earlier, the guy only gets 35% of his salary out. And 10 years earlier, in other words, age 55, he only gets 26% of his salary. That's a difference of delaying by 5 years. A 5-year variance of when you've started, or a 5-year variance of when you finished. This is the kind of result that you're going to expect. In real monetary terms, you're talking 12 grand a month versus 22. That's massive. Okay? That is massive. Now what happens if the guy decides to put in an extra 1,000 Rand a month? Okay? Well, the net effect is that it gets better to 52. And what is it that he actually has to do to achieve 100%? Well, he's going to have to put in an extra 9,000 Rand a month. Okay? In other words, invest a total of 16,500 500 per month to achieve this 100% based on the stats that we have spoken about above. For every single day that you delay, for every single year that you delay, so is going to be the net results that you are going to be experiencing. Okay? You cannot delay. You need to make sure that you've done. And that example, by the way, is where a person has got a company pension fund. Now, if you do have a company pension fund, for heaven's sakes, don't ever withdraw it. Too many people actually want to leave the company so that they can take out that pension fund and buy something with it. Either start a business or buy a Polo, a nice little car. Don't be stupid. That car is going to rust. And now what's going to happen? Oh, but I can start again tomorrow. No, you can't. I've just shown you. 5-year difference, that's what happens. Delay, for every year that you delay, that is what happens. And you need a lot of money to retire. A lot of brokers will say to you, no, you don't. You know, your kids are off your hands. You know, the house should be technically paid by then. Okay? And all this is the kind of rationale that they use. Can I give you an honest, straight answer? Bullshit. Okay? Absolute bullshit. Just because you're 65 doesn't mean that you don't want to go and play golf every day. Doesn't mean that you don't want to go and travel overseas. Doesn't mean that you and your spouse want to enjoy yourselves and have a decent standard of living. Okay? Have decent assets, decent car. I'm not talking about a Ferrari, but a decent car, a reliable car, a decent home. Okay? And all of that takes money. And what you don't see is the fact that inflation is not, you know, we bandy about this 5% story. That's another bullshit baffles brain story. Okay? Look at real inflation. Look at the inflation of your medical aid. Look at the inflation of food. Look at the inflation of the cost of living right now. Okay? It's skyrocketing. And that's not going to change in a hurry. So understand that you need a lot of capital to live in a modicum of comfort. Okay? So it's important that you provide for it up front. That is vitally, vitally important. You're then going to ask me, what about the lump sum assets that I have, my house, etc.? Of course that plays a role, definitely. Okay? So when you do a retirement assessment, we take everything into account. We take your house, we take your second properties, you name it. The whole shooting match is taken into account. Okay? If you may be living, for example, in a very big house because you happen to have 2 or 3 kids or whatever. By the time you retire, yes, you can sell that house and buy a smaller apartment and invest the rest of the money. We understand that. Okay? So that is taken into account. We look at everything, including your business, including everything. And many of you do not have a company pension fund. What about you? Okay? Well, guess what? If you were in that same job, working for a company that is giving you good company benefits, you would be paying 15%. Like I showed you in this example of 50,000, you'd be forking out 7,500. So, at no time come and tell me that you're investing too much money. Okay? That's bullshit. You've got a long, and I talk about, obviously, the majority of you. There's always the minority that do really good investments, etc. Okay? But the majority of you, bullshit. You're nowhere near putting away the amount of money that you can. Okay? So, here's a good bit of advice. It's better that you're putting away $100 a month than nothing. Okay? But if you can, you put away 1,000. And if you can, you put away 10,000. Very important to understand. Okay? Don't come and tell me, oh, I'm investing too much. You're not. And remember that investment is not just retirement. It's also for living life between now and retirement. So there's a whole cross-section of investment that you have to take into account. I have mentioned this, I think, earlier in the video, about that if you work for a company and you intend leaving, always do not take that money and spend it. You can transfer it into a preservation fund. you can transfer it into something that is secure, where you're not paying tax on that money, okay, and that you can use it. Do not go and draw it out and think that you're going to come right. I've heard that argument so many times. Oh, I'm going to take the money, I'm going to pay tax on it, 33%, a huge whack of tax, and I'm going to go and settle my bond. Yeah, sure. And then I see the guy a couple of years later, oh, guess what, I've just bought a new house. No, guess what, this happened, that happened, we used the money for that. Guys, it's a really, really bad idea, okay? Don't do that. So, what is it that you can do to boost your retirement? The first port of call is a retirement annuity, an RA. Now, RAs have, over the years, received some very bad reviews and bad reports, okay? And I want to debunk half of those theories completely. The one argument, first of all, why is it so good? Well, number one, you need to understand is that whatever you contribute to a retirement annuity within the taxable limits is deductible from tax. And your company is obliged to give you that credit monthly. Okay, monthly. So, for example, let's assume that your marginal rate of tax is 40%. Okay? That means that for every 10,000 Rand that you put into an RA, 4,000 is given back to you in tax monthly. That means it's only costing you 6. So it allows you to obviously afford a much higher investment if you do it that way. And I repeat, a company is obliged to give you that. So what they do is they take your taxable income, they deduct your RA, then they tax you. It means your take-home pay goes up proportionately, in this example, by 4,000 Rand. Then you're paying out 10, net 6. That's what you pay. Now, what are you allowed to contribute? Now, when we talk about allowed, you can spend $1 million a month. Nobody can stop you. Okay? But what can you be allowed to deduct from tax? And the answer there is basically the lesser of 27.5% of your taxable earnings, or 350,000 per annum. That's what you're allowed to do. Now, that 27.5% or 350,000 takes into account your company pension fund or provident fund, your retirement annuities. It also takes into account certain parts of the company group benefits that they offer you, the group life cover, for example, okay, or group disability cover, or whatever. Depending on how that scheme is structured, it is either considered as part or not part of that calculation. Okay, but nonetheless, it's quite a whack that you can put. And a lot of clients actually put in a lot more. And at the end of the day, whatever extra that you put that is not tax deductible, you can pull out as tax-free at the end of the day. Okay. The next part of it is that brokers will tell you, no, you know what, an endowment is much better than an RA because it's tax-free. It's bullshit on 2 counts. Not 1, 2 counts. Number 1, your endowment is not tax-free. It's paid out tax-free, but it's taxed at source. We work on a 4-fund approach in South Africa, and your endowments are taxed at source. So it means what happens is that any of the elements of the investments, Pick n Pay, Checkers, whatever, gold, etc., that's in that underlying investment, any dividends and any cash that is generated inside is taxed as per normal. It's taxed at 30%. Okay. Guess what? A retirement annuity, pension and provident fund is taxed at 0%. So straight away, apple with apple, your pension products are going to come out a bit better than your non-pension products. So that's number 1. Number 2, golden rule, calculation done, 38 years, time and time again. 10,000 Rand times 12 times X number of years times X percentage, taxed at the end. will beat the daylights out of 6,000 Rand after tax money, times 12, times years, times interest, tax-free, supposedly tax-free. Hands down, not even a little bit, hands down. You can do the calculation yourself. You can work it all out, work out the tax that you'll be paying. It knocks the daylights out of it. So that's second of all. Then is a story about, oh, these RAs are performing badly. Some cases, you're quite right. Depends the type of RA. Is it a life RA or is it a unitized RA? Okay, big difference. We're going to be talking about that in the investment side video, but the costs that are charged are vitally important. That's what your brokers charge. Okay, and that is really to be able to understand that. Now, in my particular case, with retirement annuities, irrespective of whether we use a life annuity, which we try and avoid, there are reasons why I would use it for certain instances, okay? But generally, we're going to be doing unitized. But either way, if it's life, I take a 50% cut on commission. If it's a unitized fund, this idiot takes 0% commission upfront, 0. And then I charge 0.25%. On R1 million, that's 2,500 Rand a year. Trust me, I'm not going to get rich on that. That's for flippin' sure. But I need to look in a client's eyes and myself in a mirror and know that we're doing what is right for a client. Okay? But I'm digressing. The fact of the matter is an RA is your number one investment as far as your retirement is concerned. As long as you've got a taxable income and you're paying tax, an RA is definitely the bee's knees. No question about that. Okay? You see my eyes shooting up occasionally. I haven't gone crazy. There's just the stop-start button at the top, and that's why that actually happens. Okay? All right. The other myth and story is where people say, I don't want to do RAs because the government's going to steal my money. Crap, man. Okay? Absolute bullshit. For various reasons. Let me tell you why it is nonsense. Okay? So, number one, any country that borrows money from the monetary fund, the International Monetary Fund, has to subscribe to the international pension regulations, and that is that people cannot touch it. So that's number one. Number two, the PIC, the Public Investment Corporation, has currently, as I speak, got something like 2.7 trillion rands that they manage, all of which is government pension money. Do you honestly think that the government employees, which is the bulk of our population, employment population, okay? And do you think the unions are going to tolerate that? No ways. Okay. Let me tell you what they are actually trying to achieve, and they're not explaining it in the proper way. And of course, the political parties just go amok and just feed you all sorts of crap and bullshit. Okay. What they're trying to achieve is where the fund managers of the pension funds would be allowed to invest in a new asset class. And that asset class would be the type of monies that can be invested for the good of people. In other words, the creation of jobs, etc. But you must remember that the criteria behind that is that it's got to be profitable. And if it's not profitable, the fund manager is not going to be able to do that. Okay? So there is a fine line where a certain percentage of money they're trying to make sure is invested in the proper community schemes. Okay? We understand that. But that is not and should not affect the end results of your performance in the fund. Not at all. Okay? Certainly don't believe that. Here's the other fallacy. Country's going to the dogs, inflation is going crazy, the rand dollar is going through the roof. I'm going to take my money and rather put it overseas. You're still going to battle to beat what I've just said. And particularly if you're in an existing fund right now, you need to think twice about doing that. If you've got 10 million rand, okay, currently in your fund, and you can pull it out before retirement, going to knock you 33%. That's the average rate that will work out. 33%. Gone, bye-bye to the taxman. You're now left, out of 10 million, you're left with 6 point, whatever the case may be. Now you take that, and you work it out an exchange rate today, it's round about whatever, let's round it up, 24 to 1 UK, or 19 to 1 US. And that's all the money that you have. Now you're going to go and put it overseas. Let me tell you something, but you're going to be parking cars, because you're not going to have money to live. That's guaranteed. That you're going to do diddly squat with that kind of money in the UK or the US. Okay? You're not going to be able to. Unless you go and you work. Now, if you're young, you're a professional, and you can find a job overseas, fantastic. That's great. You've got the world is your oyster. No question about that. That's fantastic. But if you're already middle-aged, and you're not a professional, and you're not well sought after overseas, and you're not a flippin' multi-billionaire, never mind millionaire, where the hell are you going to go? Okay, let me tell you where you're going to go to. Right here. Because you cannot live on overseas on those sort of costs. And just remember that the grass is not always greener on the other side. That's for sure. Look at how many people are actually coming back. Retirement funding is a lot more complex than what I may have portrayed above. Okay? And those financially savvy readers or listeners to this video amongst you will have understood that. Okay? We understand. It's a complicated and complex subject. And there are many, many different avenues to achieve these objectives. But I just hope that what I've achieved in this video is to give you, especially the younger people, a big, big wake-up call. Catch a wake-up. Because time, believe me, waits for no man. It happens like that. And you're an old toppy, like me. Okay? And you want to be in a financially viable situation. So you need to learn how to deal with your money in the proper way. On the next video, we're going to be talking about investments in general. And I trust that you listen to that, because I'm sure you're going to find it, well, certainly those of you that are not financially savvy will find it interesting. Because we'll be talking about not just retirement, but investment as a whole, and what to do with your money. Okay? Not to go and blow it. And particularly that message needs to be hammered home to the younger folks. Okay? You need to learn to save. Okay? Wherever possible, save, save, save. In conclusion, I'm going to repeat what I said previously. I invite you to make contact with me, that we can do a proper assessment for starters, and be able to give you an accurate picture of where you stand and just how good your current broker is or not. Okay? Because in investment, the rip-offs that we see daily is unimaginable. I said to you that I take 50% cut. I'm one of the very, very few people that do. I said to you I take 0%. Let me tell you, most guys take 3% upfront and 1.5 trail. Never mind 0.25. Okay? The schlenters that we've seen are unbelievable. Unbelievable. Really. So it's important that you save, but you save properly, and that it's important that you understand the pitfalls. Come and talk to us. Okay? A second opinion is not going to hurt you. I hope that you found this video instructive, that you've learned something out of it. I certainly do. I hope that you'll be blessed mightily. God bless, all the best, and please look at the other videos. And kindly spread the word with your friends. Share the links. I would appreciate it. Cheers.